Our presenting designers today include
renowned architect Anna Heringer from Germany, who is the honorary professor of the UNESCO Chair of Earthen Architecture, Built Cultures, and Sustainable Development. She's focusing on the use of natural building materials in her work. She has been actively involved in the development of cooperation in Bangladesh since 1997. Her diploma work, the METI School in Rudrapur, which was realized in 2005 in collaboration with Eike Roswag, won the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 2007. Her practice operates through an anthropological lens and regards sustainability as a harmonious balance between people and the environment. The beauty of her work that is so deeply resonant of the conference theme is about an architecture that improves lives while supporting local economies, being respectful of the environment and culture. Welcome, Architect Anna.
Yes, architecture is a tool to improve lives. That's what I'm deeply believing in. I think we have a fantastic tool as architects because we have a great responsibility, but also power to have an impact on social justice, on the environment, of course. Unfortunately, architecture can also be a tool to destroy lives. So we have to be really careful and sensitive towards our planet's resources. And I think another very important topic is that we can really contribute to a social and also cultural diversity, which I believe is also very important. Yeah, that was a picture that was taken on a study trip that I took together with Martin Rauch and our students from ETH Zurich. And it was the end of October in the mountains in Austria. It was really cold. It was still the frost, the ice on the ground at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we surprised our students with the news that we had not booked any hotel or huts or any sort of accommodations, but we said, you know, we are all going to be architects, so we should be able to build at least a shelter for the night. I mean, so many people on this planet know how to build a shelter, and we should be also able to do this. And with just whatever we could find on the site. And it was quite a challenge. It was really cold. It was not very luxurious, but it was a great learning experience that there are a lot of resources given by nature for free. And all we need is our sensitivity to see these resources and our hands, our creativity to use these resources. And I found myself in a similar situation when I was 19 years old. I went to a remote Bangladeshi village called Rudrapur with the aim just to see life from a different angle. And what I had learned from my host organization from Deepshika was that the most effective strategy for good development is to really concentrate on the resources that you have available, not depending on external factors, and really try to make the best out of those resources. And sometimes it's not easy because what you have seems to be so ordinary and so normal. And but we really need to create this sensitivity that there is a lot already existing that we can use and really try to make something beautiful out of it. And that's what I learned from them. And that was what I tried to transmit or transfer to architecture then about 6 years later. And in terms of building materials, I didn't have to look far. They were right under my feet, the mud, the dirt, and the bamboo that was all growing around. So local materials are an essential part of my work. And along with that comes the local energy sources. And for me, that's human labor. You know, when we think of alternative energies, we always think of wind, of solar, and so on. But actually, our human energy is also very important. And if we are not using this kind of energy that is on top of that very creative, then we are also creating a social problem because we need work for people. Yeah, so the workers were all coming from the direct surrounding, and tools were of course an issue too, but we had these guys, the water buffaloes, who did a great job in mixing the earth and the water and the straw, which are the ingredients of the mix. And then this mix is put on top of a foundation, of a brick foundation. That's the only part, brick and cement mortar, that's the only part where I'm using cement and bricks, but the rest, I think, you know, which is not in contact with the water, with the groundwater, can be pure mud. And then, you know, you just take the take a spade and you shape the walls into accurate shape. So it goes without formwork. And then the next mix is coming on top of that. And the bamboo, of course, was an issue when you design something from a remote place. You know, you have certain expectations that may not be met all the time. So you have to react on surprises, with surprises when you're on the site, and that's actually a good thing. So we were coming to the site and had all this curved bamboo, and we were thinking, my God, how can we make straight like beams, like 12.5 meters long beams? And we were like in a bit of a crisis, and also the ceilings, you know. But then in the end, it turned out that the problem that we usually that we thought we would have, like this curved bamboo, was actually an advantage, because we could build the ceiling in a slightly vaulted way. And then when we had the maximum load on it, we could actually, you could see that it was even. So sometimes things that appear as a problem at the first sight are finally also part of the solution. So the team was all coming from Rudrapur, and I also had architect Eike Roswag from Berlin with me, who was my partner for the realization, and Anna Heringer, his wife Stephanie, as the, you know, for the bamboo training. Yeah, and the school looked like this after we constructed it for 4 months. Then we had a drying period, and then there came another 2 months to do all the fine tuning. And it's really like load-bearing earth walls in the ground, and then the bamboo structure on top. What I wanted to show with that school is that you can really build large structures also with this kind of so-called poor materials, and you can really do really very exact architecture as well. So, and also show, of course, the beauty of these materials. So to say, you know, to change the perception of these materials, that they are not poor anymore, but that they are very special and create a very authentic and unique identity. That's the classroom in the ground floor, and the caves in the back wall. The METI School philosophy is very unique as well. It was comes originally from Paul Javatica, and he was saying, you know, we need schools where children really feel well, where there's joyful learning, and I was trying to remember the spaces that I loved when I was a kid, and that's just, you know, feeling protected. These caves, I think, you know, every one of us is building some caves either with blankets or with textiles or with bushes and so on, and tree trunks. So it's something, you know, like, I think it's in our DNA that, and I think we all have this kind of spaces somehow inherited, that we love this kind of very protected feeling, but at the same time having the possibility to have a full overview of what's going on. So the kids, when they are in the caves, they still have contact to the classroom and can observe what's going on. And that's the classroom on the top. And all these things with the saris, that's just ideas that come directly from the village and were used in a different way or scale or whatever, but the ideas are all coming from the village. Children all signed with the names on the doors, and they're rightfully signed because they were also the builders of the school. They came every afternoon to help. And it was a wonderful creative chaos with them on the site, and it was really, first, my partner, Eike Roswag, was not so happy to have the children there. Said it is such a chaos when they are all coming. He said, yes, but it's important. I mean, everyone wants to be part of it. Everyone wants to be needed. And the nice thing is mud is a very inclusive material. You can have everyone involved, no matter how weak you are or how strong you are or how old you are. It's really a very inclusive material, and you find work and yeah, things to do for every sort of, for every person. And that's, for me, a wonderful characteristics of mud. And I think you can all imagine how it feels when you're standing in front of the school, then after 6 months as a small girl or boy or illiterate day laborer that never had the chance to be in school, and, you know, to have this feeling, wow, we built this thing just with our hands and with the dirt underneath our feet. And that just gives such an incredible boost in self-confidence and trust in your own resources and in the team. And of course, also trust in the local materials. So mud and bamboo have a very bad image, but in fact, especially mud can last a very long time if you consider certain rules. And the first rule is a good foundation, so good boots, it's said, and then a good roof, a good hat in a way, so that the water the walls are protected from the groundwater and also from water directly coming from the top into the walls. And then you need, third rules is erosion control. It's kind of speed breakers. So you all know when there is a mountain or a hill and that hill has no trees and no rocks, then the water is flowing or floating in a very fast pace over the hill, and that causes a lot of erosion. But if you have lots of rocks and trees, then the water is kind of slowed down, and then there is very little erosion. That's what you have to do on the walls as well. So you could either do it, in this case, it was bamboo shingles, or my colleague Martin Rauch is doing it with lime mortar lines or with brick lines. And then on a micro level, you have it in the mix. You need some materials mixed in that create some roughness. So you first, when the wall is new, then it's pretty smooth and exact. And then after the first rains are coming, it gets a little bit rough. And this roughness, when the straw is coming out, it's actually a very beautiful texture, but also it hampers the speed of the water running over the facade. And that's kind of the only thing that is needed to control the erosion. And I remember after 4 years I came back to Rudrapur every year, but after 4 years, I noticed that there was a sort of crystallization process happening, because the mud is breathing in the humidity and also exhaling the humidity. And through this kind of process, there is on the surface a crystallization process that makes the wall extremely strong. And it's really, they become very, very hard. That's the school now. So it has the harsh monsoon rains, but it still looks good. And for me, it's very important not to mix anything in the mud, because it's the wonderful thing that mud is water resolvable, because of that, you can take it from the ground, you can reuse it as often as you need, and return it back to the ground, and you can plant your garden on top. And that's the only material, the only building material that can do that. And that's why mud is so excellent in environmental sustainability. And if you add cement and all those stuff, then you can't do this circle anymore. So for me, it does not make any sense to mix in cement or any other stabilizer. It's really the raw mud is good enough, is absolutely good enough and very durable if we consider certain elements like these rules. And in terms of economic sustainability, it was great to see. I was living in Rudrapur, so often in the evening we went with the bicycle with the workers to the market, and I could see how they spent the money that they just received through the building process. And they were investing the money in buying vegetables from the neighbors, getting a new haircut, or the white facade blouse. And so the building budget was much more than just, a school in the end, but it was really a catalyst for local development. And that was the part that made me most happy, because if I had built the school with steel or concrete, then this money would have been exported and lost for this community. Yeah, because of the awards that we got, that was enabled us to do the second building. That was also where Kobe was involved, the Dashi building. It's a vocational school for electrical training, and also has teacher housing in it, or teacher living spaces. And that was important kind of to show. First, we went into 2-story with the mud, which is very unusual in that area. And all over Bangladesh, it's mainly settlements in rural areas are still mainly horizontal, and despite this really big density of people, population density. And so we said we really have to go into 2-story buildings with the mud and save this land for food cultivation, which is really crucial. So it's even more important than the architecture, I would say, is the food. So we also had an eye on the local crafts even more, to show him, because basket weaving, for example, is also less and less needed, because people are buying this plastic buckets and so on. So we thought, how can we use weaving in a different scale? So we did it on the facade, for example, just to show that these techniques are actually something beautiful, that it's a cultural heritage that we should keep. Yeah, that's the space on top. And these were the drawings. So we started the building without having any section, not even an elevation. I just had a feeling in the belly how that building could look like in the end. And that was a wonderful, really intuitive process that I loved a lot. And that, of course, was only possible because of the great team. And we knew each other for a long time, especially the workers from the METI School. But then I also had, here's Kobe. Who was a great support also with the students from Prague University and Monterey-Ramchon, who was a contractor who oversaw the site, and then Stefan Neumann as engineer. So I would sit on, during the day, I would work also on the site, and then after the workers were gone home, I would sit and do the next sketches for the day. And so it was a very organic process and a very intuitive process that was actually the most joyful way of building. And I wish I could do that here as well. I had women on the site, which was very difficult. In the beginning in METI School, they were not allowed, but then we brought them on site, and it was just wonderful atmosphere also to have them involved. At the same time, we had students from Prague University, from Kobe, and also from Base Habitat, from Linz. And they were all together in charge in teams to take care of 3 farmers' family and to build new model houses for the farmers, which you see on the side. So the 2-story element was something very important. And I loved the way how they kind of blended in the landscape and the village. And it is not this kind of showing off, we are different. And also we have now we can afford a different material or ever. So like the showing off, because development often comes along with changing the materials. You go from mud to brick. So we said, no, we keep the material, we stay with the material, and we just try to invest more craftsmanship and more design and do this development. We keep the level of sustainability, but we increase the level of living standard and through the design and through the care in the end, and not through the carbon emissions. And that's for me, how can I start this thing? That should, okay. Yeah, that video is for me always a very painful scenery to see. It's like when you're leaving Dhaka and go up in the north and you pass these kinds of miles of chimneys. And for me, it's so sad to see, because why are we not able to take just these wonderful raw materials that humankind has built for so long with, and it has been a wonderful companion, earth, clay, to work with. And we don't need these carbon emissions to try to make it better. It's just, the perception in the minds of people that this is a better material. In fact, brick cannot deal with the humidity in Bangladesh as well as the mud can. So it's really not necessary to put in all this kind of black smoke that just harms our environment and our own health. Oh. Yes, and then the last building, which is just finished, is the Ananda Loy building. And it's a center for people with disabilities. And the idea was to show, that it's good that we are not all the standard box. That's actually good to dance out of the system, out of the grid, and be something special. And there's a beauty within, not following the given track. And we combined the Center for People with Disabilities with a workshop for textiles, Dipti textiles, which enables women to stay in the village and not needing to go to the textile hubs and work in this rather difficult situations. So the ramp is kind of winding around the building. That's the most predominant sign of this structure. And of course, that raises a lot of questions. Why do you need a ramp? And then you're immediately at the discussions of why it's needed to be inclusive. So this architecture is kind of really raising also awareness in this sense. That's the caves under the ramp. And that's the workshop for the textiles. And the textiles are very important to me as well. I've been in 1997 for the first time in Bangladesh, and when you're there since such a long time, you just can't look away from the factor that actually the garment sector is shaping the settlement patterns in Bangladesh much more than our profession as architects. And I found that as an architect, I'm a bit on my limits. It's something I found that it's not the right tool to kind of do something to make this situation a little bit better. The problem is that the whole production of the garment center is so centralized that it drags all the labor force from all the country to a few hubs, and then there are just too many people, and it's not possible to provide humane living conditions anymore. So I thought, okay, what can I do to turn it around, to bring the work to the people? And then it was clear that we need to design a product that is can be produced in a completely decentralized way, and with no electricity, that's not following any fashion circle and so on. And it's also a product that is truly unique and cannot be replaced by any machines or computers. So together with Deepshika and a friend of mine, Veronica Lang, who is a textile designer and a craftswoman, so we designed fashion. So in order to not bring the women to those kind of places, but really provide them good work opportunities in their homes in Rudrapur. And now we also documented all our projects on these blankets, also to create more work for them, because we didn't sell enough shirts. So we are also going into more of the arts, just to provide them work opportunities. Yes, but still, of course, the mod is my passion number one, and it's not in our focus, but still the majority of people are living on this planet in mud houses all around the globe, in all sorts of climate zones and cultures. And it's strange that it's not a material that is considered being worthy to be studied at universities. So I brought the mud to Harvard, precisely 60 tons of mud right in front of the Graduate School of Design. And we turned the front together with 150 volunteer students, faculty members, people from the town, into a warm place for people together. And it was nice to see that, that the mud in Boston is gray as the concrete, but people were constantly touching the walls. And for me, that was interesting to see that, we're obviously not perceiving architecture only on a visual level, but also on a tactile and also some other senses that we have, because it looked really like a concrete wall, but still we are not normally going around and caressing walls in our towns. So this material obviously had something special. Yeah, I also wrote a book together with Lindsay Blair-Howe and Martin Rauch about upscaling Earth, how it's possible to scale up the speed and the sizes and that also to bring it more into the normal context, like say more high-tech or urban context. So this is all written in that book. And one important thing, of course, is education on all levels, craftsmen, engineers, and architects, but also, of course, technical development like prefabrication developed by Martin Rauch. So this are the blocks that are for the Herzog Dömeron Ricola Herb Center in Switzerland. So they prefabricate the raw earth walls, cut it into pieces, and then assemble it on site. And that's, of course, a process that is much faster. And that also makes it possible to build in urban context, for example, because there you can't rotate with the water buffaloes. And because mud is water resoluble, you can just make the joints wet and then take the exact mud material and put it in the joints, and then in the end it looks completely monolithic, and you wouldn't see that it is kind of made out of different parts. So he's also right now building his own factory, a mud factory. So this is a process that's kind of the state of the art in Europe right now. And this process, the nice thing with Earth is you can do it high tech, but you can also do it low tech, and you can make mix out of it. So depending on the cultural context, on the situation, you can always do it with more machines or less machines. And that enables really that it's a future, it's definitely a very important material for the future in any sort of context. Yeah, and besides technical development, we also need good architecture. That's where we need all of you to prove that you can build with old materials, but still they can look modern. It's our corporate capacity as designers to use this material in a way that it meets the dreams and the aspirations and the needs of the people today. And that was the main focus of this project, was the bamboo. It was Bamboo Biennale in China, in the village, the drawings. Yeah, so unfortunately, I couldn't be part of the process. I would have loved to see how they were kind of doing this weaving. And yes, I brought in the stone, which is locally very often was used in historically, and also the rammed earth. And for me, it's very important, you know, especially when you see the scenery. There's so many countries. I'm sure India is very much on top of that too now. It's like, you know, in China, like between 2011 and 2013, China has consumed more cement than the United States in the last century. So, and so many other countries are following this example, and this is just impossible because we only have one planet, and no matter where we are, and no matter if we are rich or poor, we just can't do it this way. We have to really remind ourselves we need alternatives, and we just cannot continue in that way. So I'm really also getting more and more political and for, you know, protesting everywhere where I am, no matter if it's in Salzburg with my daughter or in Ghana with my colleague Katharina. So we are kind of protesting for less concrete and more earth, because this is the only way how we can keep our planet alive. So also in Austria, this was a project together with Martin Rauch. It was an interior space that we built with a technique that is probably the most basic way of building, which is just taking the wet mud and then shaping it with your hands. And for us, it was the exercise, how can we build the same way as you can build in Africa, for example, in the European context. So whenever I'm designing, I'm trying to multiply all the design decisions by 7 billion times. And then the question is, you know, would it contribute to social justice? Would it, or will it be good for our planet or not? And I think, you know, the world is not changing with one big decision. The world is changing with the everyday small decisions. So I think that's a very important thing to remember, to have this thing in our mind that, you know, we should design in a way that everyone can design in the same way, because we are just one planet, and just because we could afford it, we cannot take more resources than anyone else. So that was the technique that we used. We did it just the same way. And that were the spaces. It's for a company, you know, hangout spaces, relax spaces, or for small meetings and discussions. Ah, yeah, the silk is coming from India. It's a non-violent thing from a leprosy project. And of course, you know, you can do all sorts of things with mud, even as plasterings in your homes. And it's at the same time really balancing the indoor humidity. I'm also building now a large center in Germany with rammed earth. That's the central part here from the Catholic Church, and a timber structure attached to it. Yeah, that's gonna be, it's quite difficult to do it here, but it's possible. So, and also a project in Ghana that was kind of the layout, the master plan that we got from Ghana, and we transformed it into, you know, trying to blend in the local culture more. And here you can see how it goes from a very small clay storming with Martin Rauch and my daughter, and then, you know, into drawings, and then on the side the same. And then that's the Biennale thing. So I really believe that we should focus more on building with local materials, because if we just, you know, use what we have and believe and trust in the things that we have, our world is becoming much more humane, because we're not starting to get greedy on other things. And I really deeply believe if we build more with the mud, with the material that we just have under our feet, then our homes, our workspaces, also our villages and our towns would not only become more healthy and sustainable, but also more humane and beautiful. Thank you.